Bonjour, mes amis. So, if you guys have not already heard, this month of December, I am doing an Washington Canadian Christian Charity Drive to celebrate 200 subscribers. At the top of the description, you will find a link to donate if you are able to. If you are not able to, that's fine. Just sharing the word wherever you possibly can works too. Our goal is $750 US. And again, we're just trying to show some holiday cheer this year to celebrate a milestone. So, without further ado, let's get right on to the video. Bonjour, mes amis. Je suis la Canadienne. Bon Noël, Merry Christmas to every single one of you. And today, I have for you guys something a little bit interesting. It is honestly kind of a bit of a treat because this is something I might want to consider doing in the future if you guys are interested in it. So this is my What If series in sports. What If in sports. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. You'll figure it out when the title comes out. I don't know yet. So what is this series? So this series is going to be taking a look back at times during sports and seeing what they would be like, in my opinion, if things were different, just something, just to get the cogs in our head spinning. It's fun to change events at times and to see what's about. So before we get started with it, we're gonna set some ground rules. First thing, you can I want to try to make it as realistic as possible, but also introduce elements of fantasy, fiction, even. Same thing, but basically with that, just try to go with what you got. But if you want to change things around, go ahead. That's really just the only thing I have. So we're going to take a look for the first episode of this potential series, a time in which the world stood still. I'm talking about the 2020 sports season. Now, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to talk about each of the big four sports, baseball, basketball, hockey, and football, and see how their seasons would be different should have things gone differently. So we're going to start with an overlay of what actually happened and how things, I think, would have been different. Missing the phrase behind me, what if? So let's start with what exactly happened. We all know that the 2020 calendar year was dog shit for everybody, myself included. The pandemic got us into a situation where we were forced to stay home, sports were not allowed to be played, and just a time of uncertainty and great pause. Sports stood still on March 13th, 2020, when the NHL and the NBA, two leagues still ongoing, decided to stop all games and go into a pause because of the pandemic. Baseball was, in spring training, and the rest of spring training was done. They basically got rid of spring training from there on. The NFL was already in their off season, set back from Super Bowl 50. I want to say it was Super Bowl 54 when the Chiefs won it against the Niners. So we know what happened, but what if it was different? So the only thing I'm changing throughout the big picture, COVID-19 still happens, but to a lesser extent. What do I mean? I mean, the virus is not as effective as it was in our timeline, but rather a little more of a minor sequence. I want you guys to keep in mind of that. That's the only big picture thing we are changing, other than the sports scenarios themselves. So the first thing, baseball, because this one is probably the more difficult scenario of the four. We're going to try our best to work with it. We all know it took a long while, like other sports, for baseball to get started. So, and plus it was also the fact the MLB and the MLBPA were squandering and arguing like a freaking married couple and could not get shit going because no one knows what the fuck they were trying to do, because I bet you not even they know what they wanted to do. So instead, we had to wait and wait and wait to figure out what the MLB was going to do for their season. because we knew what the NHL was going to do. We knew what the NBA was going to do. We had some idea as to what the NFL was going to do. Baseball, we didn't know because there was also talks of the CBA, which I guess at some point they agreed to extend it past the 2021 season. I'll get to that part later. So, after finally getting their bullshit together, 60-game season, and a whole lot of bullshit because there were a lot of teams that should not have made it in our timeline, but in this timeline, it's going to be different. So, baseball, what we're going to do, if COVID was a minor convenience, I bet you they would not have pushed back the lockout. So, therefore, this is going to be the lockout year, 2020, and they're in the lockout. They're trying to figure out what exactly they want to do. No one can agree on anything because, these two cannot seem to agree on jack shit. And instead, they decide, okay, we're going to do, eventually they get all the terms on our shit set up. We're keeping the terms the same as the new CBA was in our timeline. We're keeping that, and basically all the changes, everything that comes with it, we're just going to keep that. Because it's going to be a long video. I don't want to be that long. So the date of opening day is set for April 10th, 2020. And they decide, you know what? Hey, we'll still give them a training camp. It'll be shorter because of the lockout, so we don't have a choice. So they go for training camp, which lasts about half a month. April 7th, though, however, the MLB makes an announcement saying that, no, not on the day exactly, just say on April 7th, emanating from Seoul, South Korea, the MLB season will begin between two teams set to play a 3-game series in Seoul, South Korea. The Pittsburgh Pirates will take on the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, here's why I'm saying that. Because, think about the scenario that would be. Trying to tap into a gold mine of the South Korean fan base because you got South Korean players in the MLB already. Pittsburgh Pirates, I think, have the most, or two. So, and plus the Blue Jays pitcher Hyunjin Ryu, he's South Korean. Why not capitalize on that by having the game take place in South Korea? It makes sense. The setup's right there. Plus, Tokyo at that point would be occupied because they're setting up for the Olympics. So, want to have a series take place in South Korea. You could even bring back one of the greatest South Korean players in Shin-Soo Choo. To have him play on the Blue Jays for 3 games, will allow it to go by. The series goes on without a hitch. And at the end of that series, have everybody get together, like all the players and all that stuff get together. They thank the crowd and salute, they shake hands and all that, and do a joint team photo. Because you got to be respectful. I mean, it's a way to emanate and culminate a great series in a foreign nation you're trying to explore your fan base into. After that, you can give the players a few days rest to come back and resettle into their time zones. In which on April 10th, the season begins without a hitch. So my projected standings for the games will look like this on your screen right now. You can see where each team lies and what I think would happen if each team was able to play out. Now the playoffs would look something a little bit like this. A little bit of a confusing system, but we're gonna keep the format that was proposed in the new CBA, so we're keeping that. With the winner of the World Series in 2020. No, it wasn't the Dodgers, but instead the Tampa Bay Rays. Now hold on. You're thinking, wait, what? You're having the Tampa Bay Rays win it? Why could you have someone else at the Boston Red Sox win it? Or the New York Yankees? Well, because the Rays at that point were still very, very hot. Like they were still red hot. And the Rays at that point, if they played the full 162, would have been one of the best teams in the league and would have dominated their competition, no shadow of doubt. So 2020, I'm saying that the Tampa Bay Rays beat out not the LA Dodgers because I have them losing in the NLCS. I'm saying they lose. The Tampa Bay Rays defeat the San Francisco Giants in the World Series to claim the title. Tell me that doesn't sound interesting enough. So the rest of the MLB goes about its business from there. We're only sticking with 2020 because trying to go years beyond that, that's not happening. Everything else, like in real life, plays out. The full 162 and all that stuff, that plays out like normal. So what about the next sport, hockey? So at the time of the stoppage, the NHL was about 68 to 69 nice games in. So they had to figure out, okay, so how are we going to do the playoffs here? Because they introduced a 2014 playoff. First 4 teams will play in a round robin, while the others play in a elimination style tournament, like a play-in bubble. I'll get to that one in a minute. So in real life, we all know what happened. Tampa Bay defeated Dallas in 6 games to win the Stanley Cup. Now, here's where things are going to get a little interesting, so bear with me. Because remember, this is fictional, this is fantasy. The NHL plays out its full 82-game schedule. The Boston Bruins still win the President's Trophy, and the standings look like this. So, as you see the teams that you see on the screen, which I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, so have fun with that. And the playoffs look like something like this. And it's a very, very interesting playoff pool to go through. But I'm not having the same finals in 2020. You can keep 2021, just change up the opponent for the Lightning, but we're not doing the repeat. I'm sorry, we're not doing the repeat. As good as the Lightning were in 2020, we're not doing that. No, I'm sorry, we're not doing that. So instead, the Stanley Cup Final is going to look something like this: the New York Islanders versus the Dallas Stars. I'm keeping the Stars because they were still red hot in the 2020 playoff seed. And obviously the Islanders, they need this final to prove any sort of legitimacy to their team at all. But beating the Lightning in 7 and facing the Stars in the final, you're setting yourself up for a world of pure chaos in the final. Islanders, Stars. I don't have the Islanders winning it, but I have the Stars winning it again in 6 games. The foot was not in the crease this time, I promise you. Tyler Seguin will get his 2nd cup. Jamie Benn, Corey Perry, they get a cup. Well, Corey Perry will also have a 2nd cup because he went with Anaheim back in 2007. But to the same token, this is going to be that time where Dallas hockey is going to profit monumentally. And a lot of players are going to look at Dallas at that point and think, maybe this is someplace we want to go. Or Dallas may take a step back, like they did in our timeline. Take a step back, and they have a good playoff run with Jake Ottinger, but also in the first round by Calgary. That's something. There's a lot of anticipation with Dallas there. Giving them that cup brings for them a future that might be different. But again, I'm only sticking to 2020. The only instance I'm going for 2021, because things are changing, the Lightning do not play the Montreal Canadiens, but instead they play, well, why not the Minnesota Wild? Why not? Just do it. Why not? Why not? Just do it. It makes you can have the Lightning sweep them if you want, but just something. Like, have the Wild go on this magical Cinderella run, past all 3 rounds. They finally make a final, but they don't get jack shit. They get fucking swept out of the water by Tampa Bay. But the NHL, that's probably the easiest one. We're keeping the CBA agreement in there. We're keeping all that stuff in there. Just the different layout of how the season, what I think would look like. And I'm not biased, I promise you. Now, the next sport, the NBA. Okay, I'm getting rid of that play-in bubble because that was bullshit. Okay, that was probably the biggest blunder of a play-in bubble I have ever seen in my entire life. Because we're not doing that. We're gonna do the full 82. We're just gonna have 18 per conference as normal, and we're going to keep it like it's gonna be simplified. So the standings, if the full season played out, would look something like this. You see, it's a little crazy. I'm only counting the top 8 teams. I'm not going the full. I'm not going the full thing here because this might take a little too long. And in the playoffs, will look something like this: confusion, confusion, and yes, I'm still having the Lakers win the NBA championship here. I'm still having them win the title. I mean, it's only fitting that they do so. Because I feel like you could keep everything else, but we're having the Lakers win the NBA championship like they did in real life. That's the only champion I'm keeping from that whole 2020 bullshit. Now, the NBA was simple enough, right? Just changing up a couple things. The NFL, this is going to be fun. So, the NFL just does what it normally does. It goes for the preseason, goes for the 16-game season like always. But it doesn't. You see, in our timeline, the NFL was plagued with the COVID infections, which forced teams to miss games, postpone games. Seriously, Wednesday night, really? And it just ushered us into this weird, convoluted mess. And it just made everything confusing for everybody. So instead, we're going to introduce the 17-game schedule here. And to have a little fun with it, we're going to introduce, for the 2020 season, an 8-team playoff format for each conference. 16 teams. Now, how would this be going about? Well, here are the standings. You can see there is a lot of hype of a lot of these divisions. Yes, I'm keeping the NFC East the same because that division is a massive shit show. And the playoff format looks something like this. Now, you may be noticing that there's a different first round of the playoffs than you would normally expect, a different wildcard round. All teams are playing. But you notice there's a Monday night game. And you notice there's a Friday night game. Why a Friday night? Because the Friday night game in the wild card, you want the playoffs to have an exciting start, so why not put the most exciting matchup on that calendar, on that tab? Now, yes, I kept the standings the same. Yes, I know, sue me. But because of that, it honestly is going to make for a whole interesting scenario to work with here. So we keep the standings as they are. We have the playoffs as they are. Now, who do I have winning the Super Bowl? Not the Chiefs. And it's not going to be the Bucks. I say the Bucks instead get ousted in the NFC title game by the Green Bay Packers. The Packers shake off the feathers in that weight, overbearing them of them. Basically, the meme of them trying to get past the NFC title game but failing. They overcome that hump. They make the Super Bowl, the one that the NFL won in 2019 season. They're getting a season later, but they still get it. And by having Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams ball the fuck out, with Aaron Jones in the backfield, Jair Alexander as their corner among other players on that roster, Aaron Rodgers would be thrilled. And that is where I would end Aaron Rodgers' career, right there. Why there? Because he'll have everything that he's ever wanted. He'll have gotten everything and then some. Golden jacket secure. Also, because of the fact that, other than that, he's just complete dog shit and has just gone nowhere, but just running into a wall. Because think on it, that's interesting. Or if you feel like it, have someone with the Dallas Cowboys winning it. Or if you're really feeling it, have someone like the goddamn 49ers get their revenge. But that's why I say they were dog shit, and I'm not doing that. I chose the Packers because that would be a hell of a Super Bowl if they did it again. Especially with the current rosters and everything played out pretty much the exact same way in the regular season, but differently in the postseason, which obviously would grab some hype. It would grab a lot of hype. But with it, that's it. Like you got all these four teams now. They got a full season in. We got different winners except for one. We got a different look at how each team would be in the standings and in the playoffs. Like it's just a whole nother scenario, and it's not realistic at all because of how I made it in the big picture. But the series is called What If, so this merely is just a what if. How'd you guys like it? I tried my best with that, and I really didn't even use any script. I just fucking freeballed it. So that's it. Hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, leave a like. Comment down below if you guys want to see me next. If you haven't done so already, subscribe and join the Watchful Nation. Merry Christmas to every single one of you once again. I will see you tomorrow for the Hockey Talk show. And as always, je suis le Canadien. Bonne nuit, bonne Noël, et au revoir.